to um, introduce us
Well,
to the Let's Be Nice to the Ocean campaign. You are welcome, sir. Thank you.
thank you very much, Marie and Mario and Zuhair. I'm really excited, truly, to speak with you because youth has to raise their voice for the ocean and for the environment generally, but specifically we're talking of the ocean. There is an opportunity in the coming month leading up to the third UN Ocean Conference to make it a truly transformative opportunity so that we have new commitments to truly protect the ocean. And what the Let's Be Nice to the Ocean initiative, which I coordinate, is about making ocean protection the norm rather than the exception. I'm sure you all know that there is a commitment, an existing commitment, which is not being implemented yet, but it's a commitment that exists from governments to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. That's very good. I support this. I was involved in helping making this commitment happen, but we are concerned by the remaining 70%. And what we mean by making ocean protection the norm rather than the exception is that rather than ocean advocates having to demand, I would say even almost to beg governments to protect small pieces of the ocean, it should be the extractive industries who should be forced to prove that their activities are safe. And when they're not, well, they should not take place. That's what we call shifting the burden of proof. And we're proposing that this be done through what we call the protection principle, which would be a step forward beyond the precautionary principle, which I'm sure you know is a principle of international environmental policy since the Rio Earth Summit of 1992, but we need to go beyond and to explicitly shift the burden of proof so that it is the extractive industries that have to prove that their activities are safe and not just the ocean advocates having to demonstrate that their proposals for protection are feasible. As I said in the chat box, I have been an environmental advocate for 50 years. Actually, this year, this month, sorry, April 1974, that was when I started to be an environmental activist. There was an agronomist in France, the country where I come from, who on television raised a glass of water. And he said, I'm presenting this glass of water and I'm going to drink it as a reminder that in the 21st century, I fear that people will go to war for that glass of water, just like some people go to war for oil. And I was inspired when I heard this on television, and I went and visited the headquarters of that agronomist, with headquarters which were on a boat not far from where I was living in Paris. And ever since, I've never left that boat. I've been an environmental activist. And so there was, of course, at the time, there was no youth group in the UN. The world was very different. But obviously, if there had been a youth group at the time, I would have been a member of the youth group. And also because of my experience, and although the world has changed so much in those 50 years, I think I have a relatively good idea of what it takes to be a young environmental activist. And just to pass the floor to Cyrielle, my young colleague, I think that when I speak with young people, I just say, make a difference. Don't and if that means you have to be outrageous, even, be outrageous, because you're not going to be if you're not outrageous now, if you're not demanding action now, when will you be outrageous? When will you be demanding action? So try not to be too conventional. If you're too conventional, it will be difficult for your voice to be heard. Break the molds, break the silos, and go for it. Cyrielle, it's your turn.
Thank you, Remy. Thank you, Remy, and hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today and to speak with you about youth engagement, because I might seem young, but I'm already 27. I still fit in the youth definition of the UN, but time is flying, so very happy to be here with you today and feel younger for a bit. So I haven't been an ocean advocate as long as Remy has been, but he is a real inspiration in my circle. So I hope that you will be inspired by him as much as I am. And to start, so I will be presenting the Ocean and Climate platform, where I work as a communication and mobilization project officer. And for those who don't know, the Ocean and Climate platform, it's NGO based in France, which was created back in 2014. So today, this year, we will celebrate our 10th year anniversary. And we were created to raise awareness on the role of the ocean in the climate system and advocate for its inclusion in the Paris Agreement. We have 3 streams of work. The first one is the mobilization of our network, which is composed by more than 100 organizations that includes scientific institutes, NGOs, cities, and French regions, and even aquariums. And all are working together to convey a common message, which is that we need a healthy ocean for a protected climate. And to do that, we work a lot on the dissemination of scientific knowledge. So we work to foster better knowledge and understanding of the ocean. And to do that, we are working on the IPCC reports, which we are reviewers for the chapters that focus on the ocean, for example. And then we turned this science into recommendation, and that's our third stream of work, which is advocacy. So we identify science-based recommendations for policymakers for the recognition of the ocean as a source of solutions to the climate and biodiversity crisis, and for the inclusion into national strategies. The Ocean and Climate Platform is also the focal point for the Ocean and Coastal Zones Group of the Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Action within the UNFCCC framework. So we also work there to mobilize the ocean community and identify common messages and speak as one voice for the ocean. And finally, the OCP was co-mandated along with the Verda Group for the mobilization and consultation of civil society in the run-up to UNEP 3. Now, speaking of UNOP 3, what we have already accomplished in terms of mobilization is that we launched a global consultation last year, which we called A Call to All the Voices of the Ocean. And it was directed to all ocean stakeholders across the world. The objective was to aggregate feedback on previous UN ocean conferences and learn more about the expectations for UNOP 3. And a total of 125 organizations actually responded to this consultation. So we cross-examined these contributions in order to identify key messages and recommendations for a successful UNOP 3. And of course, reinforcing the inclusivity of youth was identified as a key element for the success of UNOP 2025, as well as providing support, especially financial support to enable their participation. So for more details, I will put in the chat a link to the executive summary of this consultation, and there is also a report. Now, looking at the future and how to mobilize youth in the run-up to UNOP 2025. Of course, there is the Let's Be Nice to the Ocean initiative that I really encourage you to submit your ideas because your voice matters. You have an opportunity to take a place at the table, and you should really take it now because you are, as a youth, an actor of change. And in the upcoming months, there will be several key dates, key events. The first one that comes to my mind, and it's an official one, is the Immersed in Change conference in Costa Rica in June. Then we have the high-level preparatory meeting of UNOC in July. Of course, special events and the UN Ocean Conference itself in June 2025. But there will also be a lot of events organized by NGOs and other organizations right until UNOC, and you have to take part of this because that's how you will be sure and ensure that youth is represented and their ideas, your ideas, are taken into account next year. And I don't want to go too much further because I wanted to let enough time for the Q&A, and maybe then I can give some other ideas of how you can better engage in the process. Zoe, maybe, or Mary.
Okay, thank you so much to you, Cyril, and to also Mr. Remy for the great introduction on what the conference is all about. And again, we say thank you so much for allowing youth to be part of this great conversation, and especially to take part not only in just giving their recommendation, but also being part of the mobilization process. Maybe I would like our speaker, Mr. Remy, to share a bit on what Let's Be Nice initiative is all about.
Thank you. So, Mary,
over to you, Mr.
Yes, Mary, I'm going to ask you something first, Mary. Don't call me Mr. Remy because it reminds me that I'm older than you, and in my head and in my heart, I'm staying young, and so I'm Remy. Call me Remy, not Mr. Remy. All right. Otherwise, I'll call you Mrs.
Okay,
Mary,
thank
and
you, Remy.
that will not be very good. So Let's Be Nice to the Ocean is the I've put the web address in the chat box. It is an initiative to promote ideas. We call it outside the box, exactly where you should be. Young people, you should be outside the box. Don't lock yourself in the box, especially when you're young. Think broadly. And so we're promoting new ideas to protect the ocean. And there is in the ebook that we published a few months ago at the end of last year, ebook called "Let's Be Nice to the Ocean," which you can find on the website. There is a foreword by a fellow called Olivier Poivre d'Armor. That's the ambassador in charge of ocean and polar issues in France. He's the special envoy of President Macron, and his foreword is titled "Stop the Blue 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 Blue." Stop the blue blue blue. By analogy of the you remember Greta Thunberg's saying "Stop the blah blah blah." Well, we want to stop the blue blue blue. There is a lot of background noise. There are a lot of good things happening, don't get me wrong, but there is also a lot of repetition and broken records, and also people are stuck in the box and are not thinking well enough of the next steps that are needed, especially the next steps that you, the young people, will be responsible for, because implementation is obviously going to be the job of your generation. I'll be gone. That's a necessity of life. You know, we're all biodegradable, but I'm obviously more biodegradable than you guys. So you have to build your own path. And the Let's Be Nice to the Ocean is an initiative to help people finding their new path to protect the ocean. And I'm going to make an announcement, which I think we've never made publicly until now. So we have a number of patrons, foundations and organizations that are the partners of this initiative, but we're going to create a new category of supporters of Let's Be Nice to the Ocean. It's going to be called the associated stakeholders. So it's not organizations to whom we're asking money. Thank you very much. We have a small but consolidated budget to continue until Nice from the partners, and the associated stakeholders will be basically invited to take part in the process all the way to Nice. And so, as Cyrielle said, there is a call for action, which is on the website, which we're asking you to send your ideas by the 30th of April. So there is not much time in order to be reflected in the presentations that we're going to do at that conference in Costa Rica in June 2024, exactly 1 year, but exactly 1 year before Nice. But then we will continue to work with you. So if your organizations want to be associated partners of the Let's Be Nice to the Ocean, we would very much welcome you, because we need more young people. So it's not explicitly explained on the website, because, as I said, it's the first time we mentioned that publicly now. But in just a week or two, probably 2 weeks, there will be a new category on the website, and you will be able to join, to sign as associated partners if you want. But in the meantime, do not forget to go to the section called Raise Your Voice. And if you have your own ideas on how to act outside the box, please send us your stuff by the 30th of April, if you want to be reflected at that conference 1 year minus Nice, which will take place in Costa Rica. Maybe Cyrielle wants to add something I don't know. But before I give the floor to Cyrielle, you know, I've been working with the Ocean and Climate Platform since it started. That's 10 years ago, basically. And I want to say that it's a very, very, very good example of young people taking an issue which a priori is complex, but communicating it in a way that is accessible to the wider public and taking action that really makes a difference. I mean, the Ocean and Climate Platform is a real actor, in particular in the UN climate negotiations. So it's a very good example of how youth can make a difference. And if you are interested in knowing how that happened with the Ocean and Climate Platform, I encourage you to contact Cyrielle and her team, because it's very inspiring.
Thank you, Remy, for the kind words. And indeed, the average age of my team is about 30 years. So we're kind of a living proof that young people are able to drive action and to be young professionals and still lead the way. Well, it's not only our work, of course, it's the work of the network, but we are so happy to provide the support to drive their messages and their initiatives forward. And to complete your point, Remy, about the ways for youth to engage in the process, of course. So we mentioned Let's Be Nice to the Ocean. And I've also identified a few ways for you to engage. The first one would be in the run-up of the conference, you can get involved in programs. Like, I know there is currently a program that's called Citizen of the Ocean, which is a youth-led world forum. And they are currently calling for ocean enthusiasts and champions between 18 and 30 years old to take part in 5 series of globally connected regional online workshops in 2024. And that's really focusing on the UN Ocean Conference. And the most motivated workshop participants will be selected to attend the Ocean Citizen Summit in the spring of 2025 in France to finalize the work ahead of attending the UN Ocean Conference in June in Nice to present the results of your work. So I will be putting the website in the chat as well, so you can look into this initiative, because I really think that's a way for you to engage. And the deadline is 28th of April, so it's close, but there's still a window of opportunity there. Another way, I think, for you to be engaged and to really have an impactful presence and an impact at UNOC is to prepare your conference in the long run, because as you saw, we started our work last year. So starting now to look into resources, expand your knowledge about the ocean, to make sure that your participation can be meaningful is really, really important. There is a lot of resources available, like the Ocean and Climate Platform has fact sheets about the ocean, and there's a lot of cross-cutting issues. We're speaking of gender equality, indigenous rights, and biodiversity. So it's a really great way to still work on your respective ideas and connect it to the ocean. So that's one way of being sure that when you arrive in Nice, you are impactful, you know what you are speaking about, and to defy the misconceptions that young people are not able to know about the subject and really showcase that you do the work to know what you are talking about and become an expert. I mean, I'm 28, I'm not completely an expert, but it's a work in progress. And so you have 1 year ahead of you to do that. And one of other thing I wanted to say that you will need allies, because the UN Ocean Conference framework is not as organized. I would say it offers a flexibility, but we don't have consistencies as in UNEP. So I think it's important for you to do some research on stakeholders that will be participating in the UN conference. You can contact them ahead of the conference, and I know there is possibilities to work with them, and that some organization can even sponsor or provide you support to attend the conferences. And yeah, use your platforms. I know that young people, and myself included, and even Remy, we are very active on the social networks. If you have a platform, you can raise awareness, engage new people in the fight for the ocean, for the protection of the ocean. And it's really important to use the tools that you have in your hands.
Yeah, I would like to thank Evans Kiriga for having put the link to the LinkedIn Let's Be Nice to the Ocean community. Thank you very much, Evans, because I was going to say that one way to work with us is joining the this community on LinkedIn. Let's Be Nice to the Ocean. There is I think around 1,200 people already that have signed in, and there is a dialogue happening on that, and it's also a good way for you to be updated on progress on the road to Nice. You will have noticed that Cyrielle and I, we say the ocean, we never say the oceans, and that's and we find it very important to remind people that there is only one ocean, because in reality the ocean unites us. There is a conventional belief that the ocean separates people. No, 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 no. The ocean unites us, and in particular because it is, as I often say, it is the engine room of the global climate system. Without the ocean, we would be nowhere. The life on our planet comes from the ocean, and without a living ocean, there is no living planet. It's very important to remember this and to unite to protect the ocean. What differentiates our planet from all the known planets in the solar system is the ocean that gives us life. And that's why this battle is so important. Wherever you live, you may live in Nepal, far away from physically from the ocean, or in Switzerland, or in Mongolia, in landlocked countries. It is the ocean that gives you life. Remember.
Welcome. Okay.
Oh,
Mary?
Yes. Maybe Cyril, you want to add something? Maybe.
Yes, sorry, I wanted to address a question that is in the chat, actually. So I don't know if you already want to go to the Q&A kind of discussion. So let me know if I should go ahead.
Yes. Actually, that is our next agenda of the meeting. Actually, just right now. Maybe before that, I just want to also thank you again, and Remy, for honoring us with this kind of great discussions. And maybe at this point, I invite all the participants probably to join me in appreciating our speakers for the insights that they have just shared. Kindly join me with some e-claps our speakers for the great work that they are doing. Okay. Thank you so much to all participants. Also, again, this time I want to invite question, or rather open the floor to our participants, just in case if there is something that you want maybe some light to be shed on, and also any questions that you have during this session. Please raise your hand. And also, if you are not speaking, kindly remember to mute. Any questions? Also, kindly feel free to put your questions also in the chat box in case if you're not in a position to speak. Yeah, over to you, Cyril. I see there's something that you want to say also. Okay.
No, I was just thinking that to kickstart the Q&A session, I should address the question that was asked by Stephanie, saying that it often feels like youth and other climate and nature champions are left talking within our own bubble, while the actual high-level decision-making and formal negotiations processes of the UN remain accessible in a closed-off space. And what are concrete ways to overcome that gap? So I do understand the difficulty, and it sure does feel like this, but there are indeed concrete ways that comes to my mind to overcome that. The first one would be that it's important to unite your people around maybe a few spokespeople that will become the official representatives of your ID. And I think, and I'm speaking from experiences, that it's easier for us to have one people to, for example, invite during events, and it's a matter of representation. And also, I would say that you can contact your local representative. I think that it could be a bottom-up approach, that you work with your local representative, then it's taken to the next level, and then you get to the international level. Of course, it's a very, very long journey, but I'm sure you have all the force and courage to do so, and the energy. So I really encourage you to look into this kind of actions to reach the right level.
So there is someone in the chat box that says, how can our organization, Mission Green Universe Foundation, help or be involved? And so I don't know, excuse my ignorance, I don't really know Mission Green Universe Foundation, nor where you are based, but let me make a suggestion. Maybe you could announce that during the Nice conference, you're going to call yourselves the Mission Blue Universe Foundation. And maybe you could also do it in the month of June of this year, when there will be these preparatory meeting in Costa Rica and in New York. Maybe you could say, hey, while governments are talking of the blue bit of the planet, we're going to call ourselves Mission Blue Universe. Of course, you don't need to do it formally. It's a communication trick, but I think it's important to remember that there is no green without blue. There was somebody, the commissioner, the European Commissioner for the Environment and Ocean, 2 or 3 years ago, he said, green without blue is yellow. So we need the blue in the green, and we need to highlight it. And use your creativity to communicate, because one challenge that you have, this you, the new generation, is that and it's a paradox. I think it's more difficult for you to be heard than to me when I was your age. And it's a paradox because nowadays the environment and the ocean, the environment generally, and climate is on everybody's lips. But so you should think, oh, it's easier to get people interested. But the problem with the environment being on everybody's lips is that there is so much background noise that it's very difficult to be heard. Whereas in my days, there was very few of us, so it was easier to be heard. And also the technology does not help. When I was your age, there was on average a couple of television channel in each country, and that was it. And now there is so much noise, so many channels, internet and all that, and social media, background noise. So you need to be creative in the way you communicate your willingness and your demand to protect the ocean.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anyone else with a question. I am not seeing any more question in the chat.
think that Henry well, has his hand raised. I don't know. Ah.
All right, good afternoon.
Good
Afternoon, go ahead, please.
All right, my name is Mr. Henry. I am calling from Nigeria. And I work with the Ministry of Environment. I have two questions to ask. One of my questions is, I actually don't know who is the representative for Nigeria. That's number one. Number two, I learned that the accreditation is for non-governmental organization, and I work with the government. So I don't know if I can get an accreditation as a government staff, or maybe to know the processes which I will pass through to get accreditation as a government staff. So that's my question. Thank you.
Cyrielle, you want to respond or do you want me to respond?
Maybe go ahead because I'm looking for a link to share.
Yeah, okay. So Cyrielle is looking for the link of, I assume that's what she's talking about, the UNDESA. That's a division of the Division on Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations, headquartered in New York. And technically, the UN Ocean Conference is organized under the umbrella of the Division of Economic and Social Affairs. So it's known by the acronym of UNDESA. And there are several ways to be accredited. Of course, there are some organizations, and probably some of you are in that category, organizations that have an observer status with the UN Economic and Social Council. It's known as ECOSOC. But even if you don't, there are ways to have an ad hoc accreditation for organizations that can be selected unless some government opposes it. And there was a first call for soliciting these accreditations, which finished roughly a month ago, and there will be another call next year. And so get ready on time. That's what I could say. And also you're asking about government versus non-government. Depending on the characteristics of the governments, there are governments who take representatives of civil society within their delegations, and in particular, representatives of youth. We see that. So depending on your relation with the government, it can also be maybe an option to, now that it's not last minute exactly, there is 1 year still to go. Well, you can contact your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of the Environment, Minister of the Ocean, which, by the way, that's a proposal we have, that all governments should have a Ministry of the Ocean and not just a Minister of Fisheries, that Minister of the Ocean looking holistically at all the issues that concern the ocean and not just at catching fish. And you, in certain countries, I'm sure there is that possibility. You can also speak possibly with larger networks and international organizations that you may be associated with, and they may have slots on their delegation. There are many ways to be creative. And also, I should not forget it, in the age of internet and social networks, etc., there is a possibility to participate from a distance without burning fuel. So that's something that I'm sure I see Cyrielle is nodding. She's from the internet generation, so she understands that stuff much better than me. But some stuff are already in place. I understand, and I'm sure there'll be more of that as we get closer to Nice. And don't forget to join the LinkedIn Let's Be Nice to the Ocean family to stay in touch with us.
Okay, thank you so much, Remy. We go to Ayub. You have your hand raised. Please go ahead. Ayub Achbaro. Ayub. Okay, we go to Timothy. Please, you have the floor. Timothy, you have your hand raised. Would you please ask your question?
Maybe people forget to unmute when it's
Hello.
after.
Yeah. Over to you, Timothy.
I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have this question that has to do with the ocean issue. Like for where I come from, we depends on the ocean to do fishing, transportation, and other things. That is, people depend on the ocean fully for living. So if we are trying, or UN is trying to put stop to some of those things, what are some things are you putting in place to help those guys that live on the ocean? Particularly those people that are living on the ocean, that is, they use the ocean to earn their living.
That's a very good question. Where are you from, Timothy?
I'm from Liberia, Monrovia, Liberia, in West Africa.
So it's a very good question, and I'll tell you something. One thing that we are advocating is that subsidies to the large industrial fleets of the rich industrial countries, subsidies that allow these large, huge industrial fleets to go in the high seas and also in coastal waters of other countries, such as your country, that these subsidies should be eliminated because they are a driver of fishing, and it's putting small-scale artisanal fishers at a disadvantage. Governments support, and I'm talking of the rich governments, right? They support the industrial fleets that go and I could use a strong word and say steal the fish from poorer countries, and of course of small-scale artisanal fishers. Approximately 80, and maybe even a bit more than 80% of the government subsidies in fisheries go to the big guys, to the detriment of the small guys. And so together with the Sustainable Development Goals, we say these subsidies, especially the fuel subsidies, without which these distant water fleets would not be economically feasible, these subsidies should be eliminated. It's in support of the fish, but of course in support of the small-scale artisanal fishers. And this is an issue, it is an environmental issue, but a social issue, and a food security issue for countries and regions such as yours. So I think we're on the same page, Timothy, and with your permission, I'm going to put in the chat box, that's very useful, the chat box, I'm going to put an article which I wrote just this weekend about this problem of the fisheries. It's been published by the International Institute on Sustainable Development based in New York. I was in Greece and I was inspired on the Greek island. You will read it. And I'm explaining, I think, in a very in a simple way, what is the problem with these subsidies that are stealing the fish from countries such as yours in Africa. Maybe Cyrielle wants to add something.
Actually, I think you said it all. Of course, it's a very important issue, and I think that SDG 14 is there to indeed make sure that local communities' rights are also protected, and that includes fisheries. And I think that even small-scale fisheries is one of the main subject that was raised in the consultation that we ran last year. So it's really a rising issue, and I know a lot of NGOs are working on that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cyril and Remy. Ayub, maybe this will be the last question because of time. Ayub, if you're there, okay, please go ahead. Ayub, we cannot hear you. Okay,
Mary, I
like,
think he's having, okay, continue.
Yeah, maybe he can put the question in the chat in case, because we cannot hear him. Even as we come to the end of this session, maybe in 1 minute or 30 seconds, I will request our speakers to give us their final words as far as these preparations are concerned, and then we will be closing. Maybe we can go to Cyril and then we will close for us.
Sure, I'm happy to start. My concluding statement would be to quote Simon Steele, who is a UNEP CCC boss. And last week, he delivered a very important speech saying that we only have, I think, 3 or 2 years to save the world. But in that speech, he said, every citizen of every country has an opportunity to be part of this transition. Every voice makes a difference. This year and next, we will need every voice more than ever. If you want bolder climate action, now is the time to make yours count. So I think it's a great way to end this webinar and to really insist on the need for youth to be visible. So I really encourage you to keep your hard work. Remy?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Should
you
I
so
go ahead?
much. Remy,
I guess you want me to say something, and I'd like to say something. And what I'd like to say is that pick up your fight. Pick your fight. You know, there are many things you can do, but you cannot do and be everything at the same time. So identify your objective, pick your fight, and stick with it until you win. So you're not going to win the war alone, but you will win many battles. And the combination of all these battles that we can win together is the best hope that we can win the war for the environment and for the ocean.
amazing, amazing. Very kind and amazing words. Thank you so much for finding time really to come and share with us. It has been an honor having you. Maybe before we leave, I would request us to turn on our cameras and smile as we take our final group photo, and we call it a close. In 1 minute or